We are on. Just give it a minute or two, then we can get started.
Okay. And I just see you, but I don't see me. Is that normal?
Oh, no, you should see yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there I am. I was just off thumbnail.
Okay, good. Yeah. There are more participants signing in. Yep, we can get started.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly webinar. Hope you are having a great Sunday afternoon. So today we have Rick Napora. Who's going to talk about the relationship in general, about the importance of careers, majors, and applying to colleges. With that, I'll have Rick get started.
Okay. Yeah. As he mentioned, I'm Rick Napor, and a little bit about me. So my background was when I was in high school, I really didn't have much of an idea what I wanted to do, and so I went through a lot of jobs, including military, and I was a federal law enforcement officer, and a waterbed delivery guy, and a bouncer, and a martial arts instructor. And so finally, I decided to go to community college, and I found out quickly that you can rack up credits for years that don't really put you any farther ahead. So after over 100 credits, of which only a handful transferred, I was able to start university. Started out as an English teacher, and then I realized what I really wanted to do is help people not make the same kind of mistakes that I had made, which is just like going through life without a plan. And so then I went to the master's degree program, and I got a master's in counseling psychology, and now I get to do what I love, which is to help kids figure stuff out at that crucial age of adolescence. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what UCEazy is, and I'll turn that back over to my colleague here.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Vaitish Kuladi. People call me VK. So UCEazy, it's about the universities and colleges admissions made easy, right? It's not just for UCs only. It's nationwide we support, right? And it's primarily what we are trying to do here is it's to demystify the admission process, right? It's completely complicated. And myself and co-founder Vinny Gupta, when we started this company like a little over a year ago, so this primarily the thing was about we were first generation immigrants, and when we were looking for college admissions help, Vinny put his two kids through this process. It's not like India, right? Like most of us, we are, again, it's first generation immigrants here. There you just have a straight academic stream and go with it. But here, even choosing from each major, like what kind of courses you want to do, that definitely needs some kind of help. A lot of kids, they just pick up the courses which their peers are doing, and they take it and go, and later on they regret for taking some of the courses and not having to score much. So we just want to make everybody's life easy. So we had a very successful career in IT, but this is something towards like we want to giving back to the community. That's how the whole idea started, and we started this company. This primarily what we are trying to solve is just simplify the whole process, and especially to reduce the anxiety and stress in the families, right, with the parents and the kids, so that they can have a very planned approach and have a very good admission process journey, and see that kid is not underselling himself or herself. So we offer like 3 different solutions. The toolbox, it's a bunch of free web applications. So it's completely free. So this can range from organizer to notify you about all the key dates, important events, everything, and the GPA calculator, and your SAT, what is the best score you should report, and your resume builder. So like bunch of tools that's completely free. And we do a lot of free educational events on site and webinars such as this. So that's completely done from our top class counseling experts and other college admissions officers. And finally, the union, it is a network of experts. They are actually gone through a very tedious interview process. I can proudly say that 7 out of 10 people got rejected. There were a lot of interest, people who want to get listed in our site to provide this kind of service, but we had a very rigorous interview process where it's a handful of guidance counselors have been chosen, and they provide all sort of services. It's our online video platform. So they can provide service in different areas like financial aid, college applications, essays, whatnot. So everything. So with that, I'll hand it back to Rick.
So again, a little bit about me. I've been doing high school counseling for a little over 18 years at some really highly competitive school districts. So I know what it's like to have kids' friends telling them what they should be doing and kids' parents telling them what they think they should be doing. And as a student, it's very hard to kind of ferret out like what's best for me versus what all my friends are telling me. And I've also taught at a couple of universities in the counseling program, teaching counselors how to be counselors. So what's really important, and I'm passionate about this, is there's a huge difference between job and a career. So it's important for kids and their parents to know that realistically, they're not the same thing. So when people are talking about, I'm going to get a job after college, it's different than I'm going to get a career after college. Also, what does that have to do with choosing a major or a minor? Because in addition to kids being tired of being asked, what are you going to be when you grow up? They also are being asked, what are you going to major in? What are you going to minor in? And then when you choose a specific major or a minor, does that have any impact at all whatsoever on the college you're applying to, or whether or not you're accepted to that college? So the distinction between the job and career is pretty simple. Basically, a job, that's what you do to pay the bills. So it's summertime, you want to get a job, you might work at a restaurant, you might work in a bike shop. You just want to get something under your belt so you've got some money coming in, and it's not something you necessarily plan to do forever. It's something that you do temporarily. So a career, that's something that you want to do that's basically you're pursuing a lifelong ambition, something that you love to do, and that when you wake up in the morning, you're actually happy doing it instead of just biding your time until you're 65 years old, and then you look back at your life and you wonder how things could have been. And so the things that point toward having a healthy, happy, long-lived career would be a combination. So first of all, it should be what you value. So at your core value, do you want to be a millionaire? Do you want to be loved by the general population? Do you love animals? Like, what is it that you value the most? It should have something to do with your lifelong goals, like what you would like to be at 30 years old, like where you'd like to be at 45. Would you like to be, helping the masses, or would you like to be driving your yacht through the Caymans? And then also what skills you have, because you might want to be an astronaut, but if you can't add and subtract, the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim. Also, what interests you? When it comes to the end of the day, like what is it that you would like to be doing that genuinely interests you? And then your vision for, again, 10, 20, 30 years from now, where do you see yourself? And then finally, this is the key, what ties it all together is education, because there's a lot of things that you might want to do as a career that require very different levels of education. So for example, if you wanted to be a neurosurgeon, we know right off the bat, it's 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, and it could be anywhere from 2 to 10 years of residency and internships and all the things you need to do to become that particular goal. So with that, what about choosing a career while I'm in high school? Kids hear all the time, either you need to decide tomorrow what you want to be, or you have the rest of your life to decide what you want to be. So talking about both things, you don't actually have to determine what you want to do like right now while you're in high school. But if you do put some thought into it and you get closer to that target, it makes things a lot easier. So for example, if you start putting a lot of thought into it now, you might need to know what exactly has to happen before you apply to college, and then which college it is that you're going to attend, and then from there what your roadmap is. Otherwise, you might end up applying to a bunch of colleges, some of which don't even have what it is that you want to study. So, and even now, there's fields happening every single day that our parents have never heard of. Like, if I were to ask my father what a blogger does, he would have no concept. He would say, like, a logger? What's a logger do? And it's like, no, Dad, there's blogging. Doesn't know what that is. There's kids on the internet right now that make millions of dollars having other people watch them play video games. So parents, my advice is you want to make sure that your kids in some ways are probably further ahead than you are in terms of what's happening out there and what jobs they might be able to get. It doesn't always have to be the doctor, lawyer, the engineer, or the computer programmer. Those are things that years ago were probably very noble professions. They still exist, but there's just a lot more out there that actually you could be doing that could make a lot of money if that's your value, or something you look forward to doing when you wake up in the morning. Changes every day. And then also, if you start thinking about what you want to do now, you can start to discover your passion, because I always have kids that ask me, hey, Napora, should I go out and volunteer? And the answer is, sure, you can volunteer at a soup kitchen, or you could build a house for people in Mexico, but what would really benefit you is actually, job shadowing people or interviewing people that are doing something that you think looks interesting. Even your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, I'm sure that you might have someone in your family that's a computer programmer or a physician or a truck driver. All it takes is some FaceTime for you to sit down and ask them about what their day looks like. And you will know pretty soon whether or not what they do is something that you could actually see yourself doing. So while you're in high school, it's one of the last shots you're going to get to actually do this, rather than just burying your face in being a musician or an athlete or a volunteer person or all the things that you think are important for colleges. And then also, you can gain something that's much more meaningful, like I was just talking about, and you won't be padding your application. And what we mean by padding your application is filling it with things that you've heard colleges want. That's padding. What is really important to colleges is that you're genuine. So an admissions rep that's really smart, because they've slogged through thousands of applications, they can look at an essay in a matter of minutes and decide whether or not it was something that was packaged, like that was put together with the applicant thinking that this is what the college wants to hear, or they can look at an application that screams out, this is a kid who's genuine, a kid who has done what he or she has loved to do. And then they look for patterns, like what have they been doing the last 4 years, and how does that relate to being a doctor, or how does that relate to wanting to be an engineer, or having the skills to be successful in either. And then number 4, it gives you a much better idea of why you're even attending college, because I can't tell you the number of kids who come to my office and they know they're supposed to go to college, but they're really not even sure what's supposed to happen when they get there, or why it is that they're going to want to spend 4 years of their life after they've just spent 13 in grade school, middle school, high school. So a lot of them are really conflicted about, why do I even need to go to college? Or if I do need to go to college, what's the point when I could just go out and get a job? All right, so on that same topic, there's a major, a minor, and why does a pursuit have to do with either one of them? So let's talk about what each one of those is. So generally, when you're talking about colleges and you're talking about a major, that means that's a specific area that you're going to focus on. So for example, the majority of the 4 years in college, much of the classes are going to be related to a singular area, like biochemistry, let's say. A minor would be a secondary area that you could choose to focus on in addition to that main area. And then an area of concentration, which some of you may or may not have heard of, refers to a specific area of emphasis within the chosen major. So perhaps you're going to major in biology, but there's going to be a specialization on ecological biology. And then you might choose to minor in English. That's a possibility. And they're limitless, but again, knowing what you would like before you get there makes it much more conducive toward you getting to the right college for you. So, and this is super important to note. If you're passionate about something and you've explored it upside down, right side up, and everything, you're likely to find it easier to find what major or minor you want. So I have kids right now even that are seniors that are saying, Mr. Napor, what do you think I should major in? And that's not really the right question, because it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks except yourself, because you're the one that's going to be spending 4 or 8 or 10 or 12 years of your life in college trying to do the best you can in a highly competitive market. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, that you're truly passionate about, or that you could just tolerate it. I'd recommend passion over tolerating, but that's me. And also, if you are interested in a major or a minor and you're researching the colleges right now, you're going to make a much better choice. I will guarantee it. I have kids emailing me years later after they've graduated from college telling me that, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I chose the right college. And I also have kids who didn't listen, and they listened to their friends or relatives, and they've changed colleges several times, and they've come to find that, you know, had they have figured this out sooner, they would have spent probably 5 years less in college. So other people will also tell you that you don't have to decide right now. You have the rest of your life to decide. So you could certainly go into college and not have any idea what you want to study, and there are colleges that embrace that. So for example, if you went to Stanford and had no idea what you want to study, they don't really care, because they figure within the 4 years that you spend there that you'll find some idea of what it is that you would like to do. And many or most of Stanford's graduates go on to what's called graduate school, which would be more of an area of specialization. So you might get all of the basics while you're in Stanford, all of the classics, and then you might decide you want to go to law school, and that's fine. But if you don't decide now and you let other people decide for you, or you pick a college that doesn't have specifically what you hope to study, it could take you a lot longer to graduate. The average graduation rate now in the United States for kids is right around 5.8 to like 6.2 or 3 years. So the whole 4-year degree thing is kind of a misnomer unless you're exceptionally motivated and unless you actually get into the college that can get you all the classes you need. So Mom, Dad, if you're thinking you're going to be footing the bill, then I would much be more inclined to think that you should have your kids figuring this out sooner rather than later. Also, when you find out what you do like, many of my kids are shocked to find out that the colleges that they were thinking of applying to don't even have the major that they want. So I'll have kids senior year applying to Berkeley that say they want to major in a particular class or subject, and they'll say, oh my gosh, Berkeley doesn't even have it on the application. What's wrong? It's like, you didn't do your research. And also, finally, you could end up in a job, which again, remember, pays the bills, but you're not passionate about it, versus a career, which hopefully you end up finding in the long run. So if you're exploring or choosing a major and you want to know, well, what does that have to do with applying to colleges? The answer is a lot. And will your choices affect being admitted to various campuses? And the answer more often than not is yes. At a lot of colleges, it could affect your admissions, especially to competitive colleges, because they're going to look at your applications and they're going to compare you to up to 50,000 other applicants, many of whom have already done what they've been doing for several years and they're really good at it. I'll give you an example. One of my students graduated last year, and in his junior year, he made over $70,000 with his own company. He started out with like a lemonade stand when he was a kid, and then he ended up going into an internet development company where he would do web page design. He ended up having 10 to 15 people working for him by the time he was a sophomore, and he got accepted to USC for their business college. He got accepted to Berkeley, and it's because when you looked at his application, basically anyone could tell that this kid loved business and he was also very good at it already, unlike the kids who apply saying, oh my God, I really love business, that don't even know what that means. And if you quiz kids that want to be business majors, 9 times out of 10, they don't know the difference between marketing or management or anything. So that's important for you to actually follow your passions now. So with that, explanation. A college admissions rep is looking for authenticity, making sure that you're very genuine and that you're authentic at doing what you said you were going to do. They look for demonstrated interest, which means that you've actually done it before and it's obvious. And then they'll look at accomplishments, So no one really cares that, you play a sport unless you're really good at it. So I've had kids that have played 3 or 4 sports at like the varsity level and they were okay, but unless that college doesn't have applicants who are better, or unless they need that particular position, that's just an activity to them, not an accomplishment. Accomplish means you've reached a certain level that few others have reached. And then patterns. So if you say you want to be a veterinarian, but you've never volunteered at an animal hospital, or you've never actually worked with a rescue agency, or you've never actually seen which end of the animal you feed, then it's easy to believe that, you might not make the best veterinarian. Okay, so now what you see in front of you, and then this will be actually available for you, so you don't have to take any notes. You can always go back and review the slides. This is actually from the University of California on the left side of your screen. These are the, from the Common Application. These are the essays that they're expecting kids to write about, or the writing assignments. And if you'll notice, the very first paragraph says, students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful in their application that it would be incomplete without describing it. So please share your story. So right away, if you're that kid that I described that loved business and already had a very successful company, clearly that's not only his interest, but it's also a talent, and it was exceptionally meaningful for him. And then if you look at the next one, which is lessons we take from failure, he could have easily talked about the time he tried to create the company as middle schooler, but he didn't have enough information or background, so it kind of backfired, but he learned from it and came back stronger. The third one is reflecting on when you challenged a belief or an idea and what prompted you to act. That could be the time that his parents told him he should go to med school, but he was like, no, I'm not interested in medicine. I have no passion for it. I like business better. And then describe a problem you've solved or you would like to solve. And he was able to solve a problem with getting internet access to certain people that didn't ordinarily have the access. Then finally, describe an accomplishment or an event that marked your transition from childhood within your culture or community. So as you can see, many of the writing assignments do echo things that have to do with either career aspirations or talents or passions. And then if you look to the right, they actually allow you to list up to a certain number of activities. And so the activities, they'll ask you what type of activity it was, and then what role or position you had, and then description of the activity, which is very short. They force you to be very concise and succinct, and then which grade levels. So here's an example. If you claim that you want to be a doctor, but you've never done an activity related to being in medicine, you've never had a position that has anything to do with it, you've never had an activity that had anything to do with it, and you didn't participate in any grade levels, it's clear that you're not passionate about it. On the other hand, let's say that you want to be a veterinarian and the activity you were in was actually working with a rescue agency for animals, and your position was, vice president of your club, whatever, and then your activity would have been like caring for sick and injured animals and rehoming them. And if you did it in every single grade level and you intended to continue in college, that looks like someone who's genuine. The next screen you'll see on the left, hours spent per week. So I mean, if you spend 1 hour per week, it's obvious that it's not as good as 10 hours. Not necessarily good, but how many hours you've actually taken out of your life to do that. Weeks per year. And then the important thing is, I intend to participate in college. So if you guys out there in the audience were college admissions reps, and you had a kid that played the violin applying to your college and played really well, but that kid wasn't applying to a music major, wasn't applying to a music minor, and didn't intend to play violin in college, would you believe that that kid was authentic or genuine? Probably not, because it looked like the only reason the kid was playing violin was because mom and dad said it looks good on a college application. So college reps know, looking at your application, who's genuine and who's doing things just to do things. Also on the right, you'll look at future plans. One of the things they ask you is what? Career interest, not job interest, but career interest. What is it that you hope to do in the future, and how high of a degree do you intend to earn? So that's a good snapshot of how much college you anticipate attending in the future. And then this is advice that you will see from Princeton. I won't read it word for word, but if you look at just the highlighted section in the yellow, basically Princeton gives the advice that they appreciate sustained commitment to the interests you have chosen to pursue. So with that, that means A, something you're interested in, B, have you done it for a long time? So if you just start, volunteering at the soup kitchen when you're a senior, they'll know that that came from someone telling you that it might look good on an application. And then finally they say, we take particular note, not just note, but particular note of leadership and exceptional talents or accomplishments. So the secret kernel of wisdom here today is that colleges are selfish. They want to admit people who are going to enhance their reputation, who are going to increase their funding stream. So every college wants to get that kid who's exceptionally talented or who has achieved a great deal, so that years down the road, that kid's going to get rich and give a whole bunch of money back as an alumni, or that they're going to be making headlines, so everybody else is going to want to send their kids to that college. So that's what's out there, and that's what you're competing against. So you need to make sure that you research and pay attention to things like this, the colleges, what they have to say, because they're telling you what it is they want. Okay, so how does your major selection affect you getting admitted into a college? Well, first of all, again, like at a Stanford or some of the more liberal arts institutions, it might not affect you at all, because some of the colleges, when you look at their application, they don't make you declare a major, they don't make you declare a minor. They just know that once you get there, they'll sort of figure it out with you. Plus, you're spending $65,000 a year to find yourself. So if you stay there more than 4 years, it's another $65,000 a year until you figure it out. So they're not going to push you into it. But at other colleges, it can make a vast difference, and it can even be different at the same college between majors. For example, if you were to look at a thing called assist.org, it's basically free, it's online, it's all the UCs use it. When you type in a major, it will tell you at all the universities of California and all the Cal State universities what majors exist. So if my imaginary student wanted to study chemical engineering, you will notice that the only Cal States and the only UCs that offer chemical engineering are listed right in front of you. It's Davis, San Jose State, Berkeley, Riverside, UC Irvine, UCSD. And not only will it tell you that it's chemical engineering, but there's even specializations. So if you'll note, the very first one is biochemical engineering. And if any of your parents are engineers, they will tell you that that's very different than chemical engineering. And it's also very different from material science and engineering, and especially nuclear engineering. So if you wanted nuclear engineering, the takeaway from this slide is that one school has it, and it's what? UC Berkeley. So important to note that colleges only offer certain things. And next slide, super important. This is from the Cal State University website, and you can tell in real time which campuses are what's called impacted. And impacted means simply that you have more applicants than you have space available. So if it says impacted, it doesn't mean you won't get in. It just means there's enhanced application procedures. They're looking for higher GPAs, higher test scores, in some cases, higher accomplishments. And if you'll note, I just used Pomona for an example. We're looking at first-time freshmen, and then we're looking at the impacted programs, and one of them is chemical engineering. So that means if I was advising one of your students, I would consider this probably a reach school, even for a kid that's really smart, because they have way more applicants to choose from. So if it was not impacted, you might get in with a 3.4, but now that it's impacted, you might not even get in with a 4.0. So the takeaway from this is you'd want to have more schools on your list that aren't impacted, so you have a shot at getting in. Compared to the next slide, or the next picture on your screen, is Northridge. And if you're looking there, the impacted programs include accounting, kinesiology, finance, but what you'll notice that's not impacted at the moment would have been like the engineering course. So my takeaway from that would have been, even if your friends don't think it looks as good because Northridge isn't Berkeley, I would still have that on my list because it's an accredited program by ABET, and a kid that graduates from there could probably get a really good job even if it wasn't a UC. On to the next slide. So in this case, we're talking about selection between campuses, or selection between programs on the same campus. So if you look at the Berkeley, it's talking about, I'll even read it for you. It says, for the College of Chemistry and Engineering, demonstrated interest in the major is taken into consideration. So once again, we're back to, on your application, how would you demonstrate interest? It would probably have been participating in engineering related things like science competitions, levels of mathematics you've been involved in, tutoring other kids that are having trouble with math, anything related to engineering. And then you'll note that it says furthermore, right? Furthermore, there's always a furthermore. Berkeley in these disciplines have asked readers to play, readers would be the people reading your applications and your essays, that you place added emphasis on sustained achievement in math and science, and that you've indicated a preference that the applicants have the math level 2 test, which includes, most kids have taken calculus, and then also a science test in biology, chemistry, or physics that's related to your major. So that's not your mom or your dad or your uncle or your friend. That's Berkeley telling you, if you're applying to my campus, we're going to look at what you're interested in, we're going to look at what test scores you've had, and most assuredly, we're going to look at what courses you've taken in high school. So if you have a kid that wants to take statistics as a senior instead of calculus, that's a bad idea for Berkeley in that particular major. Or the kid who thought they could rest because they were a senior so they didn't need another science class, bad idea. Okay, so in conclusion, and then we can open it up for some questions, because I know, one, I talk fast, and two, you probably have questions. A career absolutely should be more fulfilling than a job. That's basically your goal as adolescents, and especially as parents that are parenting adolescents. I would think that you would want your son or daughter to grow up enjoying what they do for a living and looking forward to getting out of bed every day. And then if you're passionate about something, you're going to want to pursue it not only now, but also in college, and hopefully, for the rest of your life. And if you know what it is that you want to study, it's very easy to help you choose the right college for you, and it's going to make the process less daunting. Otherwise, it's just a shot in the dark, and you're applying places that you think might be good or that other people are telling you that they like, which is unimportant. What's important is it's the right fit for you. And then if you pursue a passion, and this is true, it'll be obvious to anyone that's looking at your application that you'll be a much more desirable and genuine applicant. So with that, questions. Someone must have a question out there, is our hope.
Yeah, but probably while they're thinking about questions, we can just take a few more slides there.
So we'll go through some slides and we'll talk about the next step. So basically, one of the concepts, as my boss had described earlier, is that the reason that UCEazy exists is because we know that this process is daunting. We know that for kids who have never done this before, and even some kids whose parents have had other kids go through the process, it can be very challenging. So we have a lot more help for you, and you could schedule time with myself by visiting the link that's highlighted there in gold, or you could email and you'll get a response really quickly either way. And also the next steps that we would recommend for you would be, you can schedule an hour of consultation. That's a good chance to get to know the person that you choose that you think will fit your needs. And if you schedule it by midnight tomorrow, which is August 15th, you can get an extra 30 minutes, which would be helpful on both sides for the consultant to work with you and for you to gain more information. Or you can visit the union.uceeazy.com and select initial consultation. Option 2, so let's say you're really not sure about this, like, do I really need someone or can I do it on my own? You can schedule free 30 minutes, no obligation. It's getting acquainted to the person that you think might suit your needs. And then you can decide yay or nay based on that. We welcome that. You could visit union.uceeazy.com and just use the getting acquainted option. And then afterwards, what you would want to do, if you decide that this is the direction you would like to go, you can buy blocks of hours based entirely on your needs. Some students might need very few, and some students would probably be benefiting from more hours in order to appease all their needs and fears and frustrations. And then the block examples. So let's say you have an 8th or 9th grader and you've heard that, college, look at high school from 9th grade, which is absolutely true. And you want to make sure that you're taking the right classes. We recommend, 8th graders can start out with as few as 8 hours, 9th graders 5 hours, and that would include things like us sitting down with you and telling you based on your aspirations or what it sounds like your aspirations are, course selection help, planning what it is that you might want to focus on outside of school. If you're bored in the summer, what you could be doing that would launch you toward your goals more readily, and also career and major exploration. If you're a 10th grader, recommended hours is 10, and that would include things like, again, course selection. Same thing I mentioned in the last with the addition of testing, because you're going to hear all kinds of advice about when to take the SAT, when to take the ACT, which test is better, who will approve of what. Also, tentative college list to give you sort of a target, like this is why it all makes sense. And also some financial aid tips. Then 11th grade, that's when the hours ramp up because it gets more complicated. You're going to start thinking about, based on your initial draft college list, you're going to start thinking about the application process itself, planning for the summer, whether it's taking additional courses at the community college to boost the GPA, or whether it's working in an internship, whether it's more career shadowing. This is when we'll start thinking about majors and minors and do they match your draft colleges. Also, resume. Colleges don't use a resume in the application, but when you're actually applying, a resume is very handy because then you'll remember, like, oh yeah, that's when I did this or that. And then how to start seeking out the recommendation letters. All private schools need your counselor at the high school level to write one and at least 1 to 2 teachers. And then the UCEazy free events. We do have webinars like this one that you can always go back and watch at your leisure. And then we also have, again, recordings of the past webinars, and the link is listed before you. And you can invite us. If you would like someone to do a workshop and conduct it at your workplace, you can email at that address listed. And then there's going to be a feedback form. And if you fill that out, that will actually help us, better serve your needs based on what you tell us those needs are. And then thanks to attending today's webinar. And if you would like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and connect with us, we much appreciate that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. It was a great presentation. To the audience, if there are more questions, please feel free to type it on the Q&A box. So we'll be happy to answer. Again, as Rick rightly said, this is more of pure planning, and it's not just about the job, it's about building a career, right? So it's especially for kids, they should be more passionate about, and they should enjoy their lifelong whatever they are going to do. So as a parent, especially from Asia, we know this, just kind of focus on academic, it's not about the passion, you just score. But having gone through the process, it is not about just academically strong. That's not going to even guarantee any seat in any of our UCs or other private schools anywhere. So it needs to be balanced. So this definitely will help the parents and kids and take away a lot of anxiety in them. And moreover, we don't want our kids to undersell themselves, right? For that reason, we strongly would recommend to work with counselors, and they'll be able to guide through the process and make their kids' career successful. So if there are more questions, we'll definitely happy to answer. So there was a question, Rick. So it's how important are AP and honors courses? Should I value my GPA over the complexity of the courses? So Rick, you might want to take that. So this question I can very well answer it. It is, it depends on what exactly planning to do, right? If the courses, the AP courses, which is relevant to be going to be done in the university level, yes, it does make sense. It shouldn't be totally irrelevant. You're just for the sake of doing some AP courses, trying to do, which will have an impact on your GPA. But on the other hand, even if you score a B in an AP courses, still it is going to be see much more value over the college prep level courses. So it is kind of, there is no straightforward answer to it. So you need to tie up all the stories, all the dots need to be connected to make sure you provide the right guidance to the kid, right, on AP courses, selecting of AP courses, which it should in turn in future should be helpful in his college. So that's how I see it.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My internet connection went away.
Oh, okay. No worries. So I was just answering the question.
So do we have questions?
Yep, there was one question on how important are AP and honors courses.
Okay, let's look. So AP and honors courses, the reason that both are important is because colleges will get what's called a school profile. So all colleges will know that your school offers X number of AP and honors courses. So for example, at one of the schools that's locally here, we offer 29 AP courses and 16 IB courses. So if your student has taken very few of those, but other applicants have taken more, they will know that your student is less competitive. So colleges have often joked and said that it's better to get A's in AP and IB than anything else. But what they really will say also is that it's better to have a B in AP and IB courses or honors courses than A's in college prep courses, because it shows that you had the ability to take a risk and that you can survive the rigor of what a college course will eventually look like. And so that's the importance of taking them, because it does show that you'll have the capacity to succeed in a college level course once you get to university. And then the value of your GPA. So if I'm a college rep and I see a kid has a 4.0 average but never took anything but a college prep course, that's not nearly as impressive as a kid who has a 4.0 average, which could have been all B's in AP and IB courses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. Are there any more questions? Surik, you might want to talk about a few other questions you commonly have.
Sure. So most of the questions I get are kids trying to game the system. And what I mean by that is a kid will come into the office and say, hey, do you think it makes sense if I apply to a non-impacted major like undeclared? So perfect example, I had a student that applied undeclared at San Diego State University and had a 4.2 GPA. But because San Diego State first serves students from south of Highway 56 in San Diego, those kids were getting in with 3.1s, but our student with above a 4.0 did not get in undeclared, but her friend who had a 3.8 got into a major that was actually the major she wanted, and that one was not impacted. So my advice to kids is always apply to the major that interests you. So don't try and game the system by applying to a major that you think's easier to get into, because the thing most kids don't understand is that every time a kid gets to a college, and let's say you get admitted into communications, but secretly you plan to switch to business. The problem is that every time they open up that window for applicants to apply to business, you're going against a big giant applicant pool. So you might go to a school, be a communications major, and then 4 years later still be a communications major, which is great if you want to be a communications major. So don't try and game the system by applying to a major that you have no interest in just because you think it's going to get your foot in the door. And there are other colleges like Cal Poly San Luis Obispo where the major is crucial, because they don't even let you change a major once you get there unless you're a genius and it's a very similar major. Like you might be able to change from electrical engineering to mechanical engineering, but you're not going to be able to change from English to engineering, if that makes sense. I'll get other questions like, do you think that my son or daughter should go into pre-med? And the answer is that a lot of people that get admitted to med school have no pre-med background. They might be an English major or they might be a psych major, but they've had enough courses in biology and chemistry to successfully complete the MCAT, with a high enough score. So a lot of times people that go into professions like law or medicine or psychology, you could actually major in something else that you're passionate about and then still graduate and then apply to a higher level professional school. So for the kids out there that are truly undecided, that aren't sure what they want to do, it's not the end of the world by any means. But then the next thing you should do is pick colleges with at least some of the things you think you might like, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that when you leave home and you're enrolled in college, that you're doing something that you enjoy, that captures your interest, because it's going to be at least another 4 years of your life.
So there's another question in the Q&A.
Let's see. Okay, someone had indicated more APs are better with Bs instead of regular courses with As. Yes, so APs are better if you can get at least a B as in boy. College reps have told us times and times again that it looks like if a student takes APs and gets a C as in cat, that it means that they're struggling, and then it looks like they'll continue to struggle at the college level, because remember, an AP course is supposed to be the equivalent of a first-year college course. So if I have a kid that applies to San Diego State and he's got straight Bs in all AP courses, it's pretty rational for me to conclude that he'll probably end up getting to San Diego State and maintain that level of achievement. So I would absolutely rather have a kid with a bunch of APs with Bs than a kid who's never even experienced an AP course. Because some kids want to take the safe way through high school and brag about their 4.0, but never have actually, risked it by taking a much more challenging course.
Yeah, rightly said. Yeah.
And colleges will also know how you calculate your GPA. So you're never competing against your friend from the school across town. You're only competing against kids at your own school, and the colleges will use your peer group as the baseline. So parents will often ask and say, so does it make sense that we're at a really competitive school? Is that bad for my kid? And the answer is, well, yeah, because if everyone at your school is a genius and you're not keeping up with the geniuses, then absolutely. But that's one of the truths in life. If you're at a community that's highly educated and highly competitive, then your peer group is going to be highly educated and highly competitive. So I wouldn't recommend pulling out and going to a school that's less achieving, which some parents have done. I've known parents that have purposely moved kids to another school across town that wasn't as achieving, where their kid could be valedictorian, but there's no need to do that. You just do the best you have, best you can with what you have, and then you apply to schools that have accepted people with GPAs and SAT scores like you have, and you'll be happy. It doesn't get any easier in college. So Stanford's not going to make a mistake and admit you, and then whoops, he had a 2.0. I mean, it doesn't work that way. So, and it's not like the lottery. It's not the more schools you apply to, the more chances you have. It's the more schools you apply to that look like your profile, the greater chance you have of getting accepted. Let's see, we got another question. Oh no, that's the same question. So,
yeah.
Any other questions while you have us as a captive audience?
It looks like if there are no more questions, have a great rest of the day Sunday, and have a great work week. Looking forward to work with you all soon, and I'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much, Rick. And
Okay, thanks.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.